Did you know that the standard model of physics almost couldn't work because of something that doesn't actually exist? In the previous video, we talked about virtual particles and why it's because of these that magnets work. For those who didn't see it, a virtual particle is a particle whose existence is limited by the uncertainty principle. That means it's a perturbation of an underlying field that appears and disappears so fast it doesn't actually exist in the sense that we cannot measure or observe it. However, these particles are fundamental in modern physics because they are how we model most interactions. However, there is a slight problem with this model. In order for virtual particles to carry interactions, they need to have momentum. Else, two electrons, for example, could not repel each other through virtual photons. However, we said that they are excitations of an underlying field that are short-lived and limited. That means they cannot have energy. They must borrow and return energy if we want to see it that way. So they do not respect the energy-momentum relationship. So an electron, for example, could emit a virtual photon, move a little, and absorb it quickly after. However, since this virtual photon respects no momentum-energy relationship, the electron will lose no energy when emitting it, and the virtual photon could theoretically have any momentum. This means that the electron can interact with its own virtual particles. And if we used the electron's observed constants and then took into account these contributions from virtual particles, we could end up with infinite mass and even infinite electric charge, because we would have to integrate over all possible charges and momentum. However, the electrons we observe are already affected by these virtual particles. So the constants we measure on them, like their mass, are not their fundamental constants. So the first solution to the problem was to split the electron's mass into its bare mass, the mass it would have if it were alone, and the mass added by virtual particles. This method works, but it's not very adapted for larger scales. For example, if we have a group of thousands of electrons interacting with each other, using the same renormalization we made on every single one would produce very complex results. So another method was needed to study the problem at different scales. This method is the renormalization group. The simplest case is to imagine several dots, for example, representing particles. We have a model for each particle. Now we group them by 4 and we make new models. We group them again by 4 and make new models for that. And we can keep studying how these models evolve, trying to get one that scales up to an infinitely large group of particles. This method provides a model which can be renormalized at an arbitrary scale and avoids infinite penguin diagrams.